There are 3 players in this NBA draft in the top 10 whose shooting numbers are so bad, my numbers say you can't draft them. Next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz. On today's edition of Locked on Jazz, we debut the 2024 NBA Draft by the numbers. First look, a system that's now 6 years old and rather successful. 3 players in the top 10 of this draft shooting numbers are as worse than any players I have ever seen in 5 years of doing this. And they're in the top 10, and I don't think you can draft them. We'll give you those guys coming up on the draft, plus look at the rest of the top 10 or 11 players in the draft, plus some NBA notes today as we start off our draft by the numbers for 2024. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, give you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thanks so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. We also are on YouTube. Comments, thumbs ups, subscriptions, likes, YouTube. Hit the bell button so you're notified after you follow us. Follow us on iTunes, on Spotify, on Amazon Music. You can do it ad-free. All much appreciated. Thank you very much. And to the everydayers, particularly this time of year, great. Our numbers have been super on the show recently. Maybe it's because Leaf was so good. So thank you so much for who you are. Today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On. FanDuel makes every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Okay, here's the system. Let's see if I can make sense of this for you. We've done it in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and now 2024. So we're 5 years in. I've got all of Ainge's picks for his history. Here's how it works. At this moment, I will mispronounce. I have never seen. I don't know anything about these guys. I literally have never watched them. Make sure you understand that as you hear this show, I have never, ever watched these players. I watched a half of UConn, Iowa. Probably is all I've watched. Now, we use numbers to look at athleticism. We look at 3 different numbers. We look at their transition percentage. We look at their transition attempts. We look at their isolation percentile, really where they rank. And we look at their rim percentage. So last year, some of the best athletes in the draft, we had good athletes last year, were Brandon Miller and Amon Thompson and Asur Thompson and Jerice Walker and Taylor Hendricks and Leonard Miller, all and Derek Lively, all peaked out. Cam Whitmore, Amon Thompson again, peaked out on athleticism. Amon Thompson probably was the best. 94% transition percentile, 70% isolation, 92% at the rim against lesser talent, but still. It was probably the best. In 2022, give an idea of this, our best athletes were Chet Holmgren, 93% transition percentile, 96% isolation. Keegan Murray, 97% in transition, 80% isolation. Mark Williams, center at in Charlotte. Terry Eason, Jalen Duren. Okay, it actually lines up, right? Like, just quickly to give you the idea, in 2021, the best transition, there actually was Corey Kispert. Actually, surprisingly, was good. This actually turned out to be a really good pro. This was a weird draft. Trey Murphy III. Chris Durante was actually a numbers whiz, but he's also 25. Evan Mobley peaked out. Isolation numbers, the best were Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs, and Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy was really, really good in that show. Okay. So of the top 10 this year, we got a bunch of athletes. Alex Sarr is in the 91st percentile of finishing in limited attempts, but still. Zakari Rashir, I don't know. I literally have no idea. I've never heard of these. I've done no draft prep. 92 percentile. Donovan Clingan, 92 percentile. Stephen Castle in the 80th, so that's okay. Cody Williams, Colorado, 84th percentile. Isolation, Cody Williams on 15 attempts is the best of the top 10, but not very impressive. And Cody Williams, Colorado, is the best rim percentile finisher. Donovan Clingan is obviously very, very good as well. Okay, so of the top, I've only done Alex Sarr, Zakir Rashari, Nikola Topic, Donovan Clingan, Reed Shepard, Stephen Castle, Matisse Pazulis, Rod Dillingham, Cody Williams, Ron Holland, Dalton Knecht, and Jacoby Walker and Isaiah Collier. I've only done the top 13 players. Of the top, we'll do the rest tonight, and then we'll do it tomorrow. Of the top 13 players, those in isolate, those there's some good athletes there. The best athletes look to be Cody Williams peaks out as the best athlete of the group, and that's got it. Well, we've heard a lot that Donovan Clingan looks fine, but he's also 7'3" or whatever he is, so 7'2". Okay. Then we look at whether someone can create playmaking. So we look at pick and roll, ball handling, and how they do on that and what their percentile is, and that's our playmaking stats. So last year, Cason Wallace was very good. Grady Dick in limited attempts was good. Kid Trey Alexander didn't play much last year, was good. Julian Strother was good. And I think Marcus Sasser was great, and Marcus Sasser turned out to be a good pro. The year prior, in 2022, Jaden Ivey was good. AJ Griffin was good. Malachi Branham was good. Terry Eason was good. And Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara was great. Seems to like work. 2021, if you want it. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs. Though Jalen Suggs actually, I take it back, he only run 17 attempts. This was a weird draft. This was because of COVID. There just weren't that many games played. And so there weren't a lot of data. But Cade Cunningham was there. Trey Murphy III, but again, not very many pick and rolls in that group. Cameron Thomas, who has turned out to be a pretty good scorer, was all right. Oh, wait, that was athleticism. Pick and roll, still not a lot run. The best one in this draft of pick and roll was a kid by the name of Jaden Springer. There really just was very limited good numbers on pick and roll on anyone who actually ran much of any of it. Chris Durante was terrific. Kessler Edwards but he only ran 19 of them. I mean, it was just so limited in the amount of times. So if we go to 2020 for good pick and roll, guys who actually had enough attempts that you actually would look at it and say, oh, that's really good. You had Tyrese Maxey was the best in that whole draft. Malachi Flynn was great. Turned out to not be a very good NBA player. Desmond Bane was terrific. Isaiah Joe was good in limited time, but still was really, really good. Okay. The numbers have not sucked so far. So to this year, to the pick and roll ball handlers in the top 13, I'm giving you just this quick rundown, and then we will get to the three players whose shooting numbers are so bad, but I'm giving you kind of the system because we'll get to shooting here in a second. Nikola Topic, who is kind of projected he's the 6'7" lead guard, 203 pounds, play the Red Army. He's a very good pick and roll player. In fact, he's probably played limited opponents, but his pick and roll numbers are really good. 89th percentile, 119 pick and roll attempts. We have not had a lot of 89th percentile guys over 100. Now, that's because of his league. Reed Shepard, 80 pick and rolls, 93 percentile. We have not had a lot of that. Rod Dillingham, 120 pick and rolls, 89 percentile. Pretty darn impressive. Dalton Knecht's 109 pick and roll attempts, 67th percentile is not bad. Stephen Castle at 72 pick and roll attempts, 74 percentile. Not bad. And Isaiah Collier, 170 pick and roll attempts, which is a lot, 62 percentile on a disappointing team. So, okay. So then we get to shooting. And we look at the shooting. And we look at I got a bunch of numbers, but we really look at three primary numbers in shooting. Spot up percentile. Overall catch and shoot. We also have unguarded catch and shoot, which I always thought was going to be interesting. It's not as interesting as I thought. And then we have creation, which is dribble off the dribble percentage. Usually I don't combine all three of these because I think they say different things. The shooting is just spot up and catch and shoot, tells you kind of what you need. And then the creating is whether someone can create the dribble shot for themselves. And if we can go back to 2019, because we actually have the data. It's so fun that we have this. Like the best shooters were Kobe White, Brandon Clark, PJ Washington, Cameron Johnson, Rui Hashimura, Keldon Johnson. Were all great shooters. The great creators in that draft were Darius Garland, Kevin Porter Jr., Grant Williams on limited attempts. No, actually not a little bit limited, but yeah. Rui Hashimura and Tyler Hero. Okay, those all panned out. Sometimes numbers actually tell you something. Like, consider the fact that we've been talking all week long that half the draft is like half and half, and like these guys are all hitting. It tells you something. Shooting in 2020, Tyrese Halliburton, Devin Vassell. Actually, interesting. Kyra Lewis was a good shooter, but he didn't peak out on catch and shoot, so he didn't get both. Sadiq Bey got both. Aaron Nesmith is the best shooter we've ever seen this draft until this year. Tyler Terry was really good. Tyrell Terry, he left because of emotional, I think, mental health issues. Josh Green was pretty good. Malachi Flynn was good again. And Jaden McDaniels was good. Off the bounce that year, the best was Malachi Flynn again. He was also, by the way, worth noting, he was like 23. Older players can peak these numbers, and then that's the one thing. Another off-the-bounce guy that was really good was Kyra Lewis. Generally, there was nobody off the bounce over 80. Very rarely is there someone over 80%. Aaron Nesmith was at 77 percentile in that. Was not a great off the bounce draft. Okay, that's the system. And that's a good example where it's been crazily successful for something that's so stupid when I've never watched a game. Athleticism, playmaking, shooting, and creating. That's the system. There are 3 players in this draft in the top 10 whose shooting so bad, I don't think you can draft them. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by my good friends over at Intercap Lending. That's Stephen Carter. And Stephen Carter is our own personal loan officer at Intercap. And I got to tell you what, we've never, in 7 years now with Intercap Lending, we've never had anyone ever send me anything but a note that says, oh my gosh, that's the most amazing person I've ever worked with. So if you need a loan, if you're in the market and you need some lending done, not just Utah, and in almost every state, we have your own personal loan officer for you. And that is our good friend, Stephen Carter. So here's how it works. He's hyper responsive. He gets all the work done. He just comes back with review after review after review that says, this is the guy. So therefore, you can email me first at dlock09@gmail.com and I will just set up the meeting for you. Or you can call Steve directly at 385-800-8528. That's 385-800-8528 if you'd like to. Promise you, you'll have no better lending experience than you possibly will with Steve Carter. Intercap Lending, NMLS number 190465. For more information, visit intercaplending.com. And again, feel free to email me at dlock09@gmail.com to make sure that we get you your VIP experience with Stephen Carter. Mother's Day is around the corner. And I've got an unusual place for you that can solve your Mother's Day problems. And that's DoorDash. That's right. With DoorDash, you'll get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. That's right. DoorDash is saving your day on Mother's Day. You want to make your mom smile? Mother's Day flowers, surprise her with gifts. Is she a sweet tooth? Do that instead. Whatever thoughtful idea, Mother's Day, get something for mom and get it on DoorDash. Surprise her. Whether it's a fresh bouquet, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, whatever it might be, DoorDash is here for you. So get all your Mother's Day gift all in one place. Get 50% off your next order and up to $15 when you spend $15 on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order. Now with the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Again, Mother's Day gift, as unique as she is, via DoorDash. The code is LOCKEDONNBA. You get 50% off your next order. Up to $15 when you spend $15 on your next flour, convenience, grocery store, or retail order now on DoorDash. Promo code LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. DoorDash saving you on Mother's Day. The three players whose shooting numbers are so bad that I wouldn't draft them. Have you made the switch yet, by the way, to Locked On Sports Today? It's your 24/7 national streaming channel with all the most important sports stories of the day for you from the local experts of Locked On without the yelling and screaming of ESPN or Fox at you all day long. It's actually just really good, intelligent sports talk. A free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day, customized to the biggest stories of the day. Where do you find it? You find it on YouTube or you find it on Amazon Fire TV, right like I am this very second, flipping it on to my television. I forgot to do it first thing this morning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Just go to Amazon Fire TV if you have an Amazon Fire, slant the channels and hit the green circle. It says Locked On Sports Today. If you do it right now, you'll get Locked On NFL Draft, still recapping the excitement and craziness of last weekend. All right, here are the three players whose shooting numbers are so bad, as I just spilled coffee all over my mouse, which could make this a very interesting effort to try to get you your information. Is the mouse still working? Oh, this is going to be really hard to do. Okay, that's not great. Here are the three players whose shooting numbers are so bad. Stephen Castle, who, if you go to the Ringer right now, in their mock draft, they have us taking him as the second pick of the NBA draft, obviously trading up or winning the lottery, one or the other, not entirely sure. Castle shoots 28% on spot ups. I'll give you their numbers, and then I'm going to compare their numbers to that of other players. Castle shoots in the 20th percentile on catch and shoot. He was 15 of 58 for effective field goal percentage of 39% on catch and shoot. And on creation, he's in the 26th percentile. He's a sub 30 in every percentile. I only have found four players in our 5 years who are sub 30 in all three categories. Okay? Two of them are bigs. Castle is a 6'6" combo guard. The second player whose shooting is so bad that I'm not sure you can draft him is Matisse Bazoulis out of G League Ignite. A wing, 6'10", 208 pounds. He was in the 29th percentile in spot up, 24th percentile in catch and shoot, 36 of 117. On unguarded catch and shoots, he was 10 of 44. And his jumper off the dribble percentage is in the 30th percentile, 19 of 53. So far, Stephen Castle and Matisse Bazoulis. And the third is Ron Holland of G League Ignite. Now, G League Ignite gets interesting here because of the fact, as Ben Anderson talked about, these guys seem to take 3 years to get better. And this year's G League Ignite team was so bad and in such a bad circumstance that maybe we have to reevaluate some of these numbers. He's in the 30th percentile in spot up. He's in the 14th percentile in catch and shoot, 21 of 79. His open catch and shoot, he was 14 of 49. And off the bounce, he was 17th percentile, 22 of 81. Okay. By the way, Nikola Topic, who is 19 years old, not yet, 18.9, and 6'7", 203 lead guard out of Europe, who is very, very good in pick and roll, one of the best pick and roll numbers we've seen, was a little disconcerting on his catch and shoot percentile. It was 30th percentile. His unguarded was really bad, but his off the bounce dribble was really, really good. And his spot up was fine, leading me to not put him in this category. Not worried about him. But Stephen Castle, 28% in spot up, 20% in catch and shoot, and 26 percentile, not shooting, but percentile of players in off the bounce shooting. Matisse Bazoulis, 29th percentile spot up, 24th percentile catch and shoot, 30th percentile off the bounce. These guys are all 30% or below in all three categories. Here are and then Ron Holland, 30 in spot up, 14% in catch shoot, 17% off the dribble. Here are the players that in the 5 years we've done this that you would recognize the name. There's players in second round, but these are top 10 players. So top first round draft picks. Precious Achua. Okay, he's a big. He can't shoot. 23rd percentile, spot up, 29th percentile, catch and shoot, 24th percentile off the bounce. Nazar Little. Okay, pretty interesting. 6'4", wing, first round draft pick, Portland Trailblazers, has now bounced around. A lot of hope. I liked him a lot. When I watch him play, I get excited about him. However, can't shoot. What has he done in the league? Let's look. He has shot 30% from three in his career from three. 33%. This last year in Phoenix, with all the space in the world, 30%. He plays about 16 minutes. He started 36 games in his career. He's probably working his way out of the league. He's one of those guys that just disappears. Career 33% three-point shooter, largely because he had one decent year in Portland. Okay? Ryan Rupert, who was a rookie last year, I believe. Ryan Rupert was 14 percentile, 20 percentile, and 10 percentile. He played 39 games this year for Portland. He shot 33% from the field. He did hit 36% of his threes. His effective field goal percentage was 42%. He's a youngster. He's 19 years old, out of France. He was a second-round draft pick, though. And Zaire Tillman, who is now in Boston and is kind of this hybrid big who you want to believe he can shoot a little bit. He's shot 26% in his career as a three-point shooter. Okay. Those are the only four players who've been sub 30, 30, 30. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players who have some similar characteristics. Of those 14 players, I might go with 0 as those that are having successful or on the verge of having a successful NBA career. We discuss next on Locked On Jazz. Have you gotten into Monopoly Go yet? So fun, such a great way to get your competitive juice out. Such an enjoyable way and an adaptation of the original classic with Park Place and all of Broadway and all of the fun things and your railroad stations and all the rest of the great things you can do. Well, Monopoly Go has it going. Let me tell you, you can trade. This is modernized. It's unique. You can have stickers you can trade with friends to compete for albums for bigger prizes. You have cool new playing pieces to travel with. You have hilarious emojis you can taunt friends with. And Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. And a ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure, robot, I can never say this right, Pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers. So it's super fun. Go get your friends together, have some fun, and play Monopoly Go. Download it now for free at Google Play or the App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. Today's show is also brought to you by the official sportsbook of Locked On. It's FanDuel, the FanDuel Sportsbook. Boy, they nailed some lines last night. That incredibly good Cleveland-Orlando game was like right on the number again last night. FanDuel's amazing. Odds tonight with FanDuel. Boston is a 14-point favorite, and Dallas is a 3-point favorite in LA to face the Clippers, which is certainly interesting to see. FanDuel, right now, if you go play with FanDuel, it's winner take all in the NBA, NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring it home. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, number one sportsbook in America, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. Thank you so much. All right. Here are the players in my 5-year database. Never watched these guys play a second. Don't know anything. Compare it to Stephen Castle, Matisse Bazoulis, and Ron Holland in their shooting. From last year's draft, Julian Phillips was in the 20th percentile in spot up, 12th in catch and shoot, and 34. Top 10 pick by the Charlotte Hornets, James Bouknight. Hasn't panned out a lick. Bouknight hasn't panned out. He was a project out of UConn. He has shot 36% in his career, 33% from three. Josh Primo was 15th percentile spot up, 16th percentile catch and shoot, 53rd percentile off the bounce. Bouknight was 59th percentile off the bounce. You thought maybe that would mean that's why he got drafted in the top 10 by Charlotte. He was the 9th pick or 11th pick, so he wasn't top 10. Patrick Williams, the 4th pick of the draft by the Chicago Bulls, who has been okay. He has the best career of anyone here, maybe because he was a 4th pick and they won't give up on him. And he has actually turned out to be able to shoot. So this is the outlier in this, Patrick Williams. But he was not terrible, frankly. He was 32%, 54, and 70 percentile. Not sub 30 in all three. Precious Achiuwa, we mentioned. Nico Mannion was 29% in spot up, 28% in catch and shoot, 54 percentile off the bounce. Still didn't make it. Cam Reddish, who everybody's wanted to do so well all these years, and he's getting bounced around and 10th pick of the draft by the Atlanta Hawks, is a career 39% shooter and 32% from three. He was a 33 percentile, spotting up 27% catch and shoot, 71 percentile off the bounce. Nasir Little, we just talked about. Last year, Anthony Black, not as bad, 34 percentile spot up, 41% catch and shoot, 54 percentile off the bounce. That's not sub 30. These are just some of the worst shooters we've ever had in our numbers. And you're wondering, what happens to the worst shooters? Anthony Black in his first year played 69 games. He shot surprisingly well, 47% from the field and 39% from three on 2 attempts a game, or in 1 3-attempt a game. So let's see if that develops. Jalen Hood-Schifino from last year was a 22 percentile spot up, 32 percentile catch and shoot, and was a 25 percentile on off the bounce. Pretty close. He shot in 21 games. He shot 22% from the field and 13% from three. Interesting. Jalen Williams of the Thunder, the big man, was a 31% spot up and 23% catch and shoot. He's turned out to be a good shooter. It's down to 13 minutes a game. Zaire Williams, early, I believe, top 10 pick by the Memphis Grizzlies. It's not coming up on my charts right now. Zaire Williams, 15 percentile from the field, or spot up, 16 percentile on catch and shoot, and is 53 percentile. So again, not terrible on off the bounce, not sub 30. But Zaire Williams, who at times has shown flashes, has generally had a hard time making enough shots. I'm pulling it up for the data. He has got better in his second and third years in the league. So let's just make sure we have it exactly right. But of course, it doesn't want to pull up. Here we go. His career is a 43% shooter from the field and 30% from three. And Xavier Tillman, who I mentioned. So there you go. Those are the players. Those are the worst shooters we've seen in 5 years. Julian Phillips, James Bouknight, Josh Primo, Patrick Williams, decent. Precious Achiuwa, Nico Mannion, Cam Reddish, Nasir Little, Anthony Black, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Ryan Rupert, Jalen Williams of Arkansas, Zaire Williams, and Zaire Tillman. And this year's draft, Castle out of UConn, Matisse Bazoulis, and Ron Holland are all in that group. And quite honestly, with numbers no one else has ever had in 6 years of our data collection as bad shooters, that bad a shooter. Haven't watched them. You can develop the shot in theory. You decide. But my data says you can't draft that. You can decide. Tomorrow we'll look at the rest of that top 10 class because there's actually 3 shooters that are guaranteed to be fine. Interesting note on the Dallas Clippers series for tonight. Luka Doncic is shooting 39%, 27% from three. He is only 4 of 15 when Harden's defending him, and he's really struggled when Terrence Mann's defending him. Terrence Mann's had 5 fouls called on him in 4 games. 5 fouls in 4 games. You have to wonder if the new way they're calling the game, the one player who I thought would be completely unimpacted by it was Luka Doncic. Because he's so strong and so powerful. Maybe not. Rudy Gobert was plus 24 per 100 possessions against the Phoenix Suns. Woo! Important trend in the NBA. The Miami Heat zone being torched by the Boston Celtics right now. The Heat played the most zone of any team in the league at 13%. They've only played zone for 8%. They're allowing 1.52 points per possession in the zone. Does this mean that the zone goes by the wayside? You would have thought the zone would have gotten more important in the playoffs. It's done the opposite. And out of New Orleans, David Griffin said, in the past, we've erred on the side of continuity. We needed to see this group together healthy. I think we've seen enough. Interesting. Who on New Orleans intrigues you as a Jazz fan? That is Locked On Jazz today. I'll be back with you tomorrow. We'll look at some of the rest of the numbers in the draft. We'll look at the 3 players who are such good shooters, 2 of them particularly. One of them's the best shooter we've ever seen in the draft. Tomorrow on the show, one of them's guaranteed. One of them should be the number 1 pick of the draft. Next on tomorrow on Locked On Jazz. Right now, we send you over to the first ever 24/7 national streaming channel. If you're on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today. And if you're on audio, switch over and go to Amazon Fire or YouTube and go to Locked On Sports Today.